Vice President Kashim Shettima on Friday at the 15th NEC of the APC, held at the Villa, stated openly that it is suicidal for anybody to even wish or think that they would compete or contest against the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2027. More or less, technically, shutting out, the door and saying, that, it's slam dunk. The presidency is already won. The presidency is already won and lost.
Okay.
What's your view on this?
I try to allude to that, circumstance because context is important. Yeah. You have the text, then you have the context. The density of history and all the environmental circumstances that marshal somebody's thought or somebody's, rhetoric, somebody's action. The vice president came with a fanfare in 2023. He even made a declaration in Lagos that I'm an expert on security. And the president is an expert in managing economy. That's why Lagos is big. Yes. So he's going to focus on managing his economy. Exactly. Why I'm going to manage the security? I take charge of security. They may be watching him and say, this man, does he know the jobs of a vice president? He's actually a spare tire. He has no job, if he really speaking.
So you also agree that VPs are spare tires?
Essentially. The Constitution will provide a few things for you there, but it's at discretion of the president. Yeah. If you read his body language and it's unfavorable to whatever the Constitution said he should even be or do, you do the needful. And as I told you last year, there was this APC pan-national meetings and endorsements of the president for a second term. And in the Northeast, it was instructive that his name, the VP's name, was not even mentioned. That even the governor of Borno State screamed that aloud. I was among those intellectuals who went on the media and said, no, this is not the way you run the presidency. You don't bring this kind of divisiveness. It's a unified presidency. So the president had to take on the vice president going forward. And let us be honest about it. The Muslim ticket, then, of course, people oppose it, even still oppose it today, was a strategic construction. It was not an ideological formulation. This is a faith, civilizational and faith-driven something. If you're talking about Christian genocide or CPC designation, implicate the Buhari presidency far more than the Bola Ahmed Tinubu presidency. For those of us who want to be honest about this conversation, to say, is there any intent, is there any spirited effort on the part of this current presidency, to deepen the so-called Christian genocide? No, surely not. But there was there some groundswell of movement, before his presidency, from the Buhari era, to somewhat create enabling environment for certain things to happen far more then. So in spite of the Buhari having a Christian-Muslim formulation and the Bola Ahmed Tinubu having a Muslim-Muslim formulation, one seems to be more intent in ideologizing this faith, disparate faith relationship than this current one. But then, Trump is there, locking the shadow. CPC designation has occurred. So the VP is a man running scared. So expect that kind of language is to please the audience. I'm sure inside the villa, that's where the meeting held. The president may not be available there, but then his people are there watching him intently. So he needed to make the kind of statement that is very rash, very historical, and very unprovable. Even if you have only a tiny party called PRP, a smaller party called AAC or something, they have a candidate, they will run. To say nobody should even contest at all is beyond reason. There's going to be a contest in 2027. A very robust, very intense, a scorched-earth political warfare will unfold. Politicians are ghosts. I keep telling you that. If you move them this way, they're shadowy terrier figures. They move the other way. You can find there's a certain kind of movement into ADC. Take the Southeast, for example. With the likes of P2P, surging into ADC, and the lot forces in PDP, PNOB, Opimodo, the rest of them moving there, is to give the party some robust width. If P2P were to emerge as a candidate of ADC, then the conspiracy of South and solidarity will crumble rapidly. Because the Southeast will separate with portions of the South, and even Grand Lagos, Greater Lagos may heave. So the present own location within that southern belt will be diminished. He may take up the bulk of the Southwest outside Lagos that will be heavily contested. South will be heavily contested, Southeast is gone. Then the North may settle the battle, the political battle. So it is there. If you have Atiku, for example, emerging as a candidate of ADC, for example, and then you may now, have, and South that is empty in terms of contestation, because the president will be the only person, and PWB did not take any ticket, including level, and so on, for whatever it is worth. That scenario is still not yet with us. If PDP escapes these little challenges, the way it is going now, apparently it is working in that direction. One victory, another one. If it happens before May, when the INEC timetable will unfold before our eyes, and then you have the calendar, the cutoff time for parties to do nomination process, the PDP may have a rebound You may find a situation where somebody disgusted with whatever has happened in ADC, I don't know, I'm not going to say that, it hasn't happened, says, I have a new party called PDP, a very old one, present in every part of the country, as valuable to me to pick up. My contention is that the vice president spoke to please his audience. He spoke to preserve his seat. He didn't speak something that is rational, scientific, or logical.
Nice. Let's take it right out to that. You alluded to it, but let me ask you straight. So you do not mind, as an intellectual, public, intellectual, you do not mind a repeat of this Muslim ticket? And if you do mind, would you want a vice presidential candidate from the north, west, or northeast, or from the south?
For which party? APC?
APC, of course. APC.
Already
I'm talking about,
already the president is the candidate of the party.
Exactly.
To all intents and purposes. He'll be coronated at the convention of APC somewhere down the line, July, August, whenever INEC specifies. So, his running mate must then come from the north. Not will or shall or may, but must come from the north.
Okay.
As he said in 2023, and everybody slammed it, I was one of those who went on the Muslim ticket stuff. Because it's a winning argument for portions of the north, the Christian north, that a Muslim vice president and a Muslim president from the south is a panacea for disaster for the Christian north. It's a very winning argument. And the counter argument from the APC side is that, look at the president, he's like a liberal Muslim. Look at the wife, he's a Christian. Then Shetima has no history of this redentism or extremism and radical Islamization or something there. It's a strategy for us not to lose among the Muslim, majority Muslim population in the north. We can have a minority Muslim candidate in the south because Islam is south, is marginal in the south. If you take south and south, is combined with the southwest, it's a very minority. And that's where the president is from. So if you take another minority in the north, it's a political suicide mission, it's a disaster. So we need to do this. That's their own argument. I'm not going to promote that argument. Now, the argument may well be we have to repeat the same thing, but then the whole context of Nigerian political engagement has been globalized and comprehensively ideologized. You now find the CBC designation. You find American strike on Sokoto. You find the American boot on the ground, as we're hearing these days. You find everybody watching, and you find abductions of Christians in their churches. So to repeat the Muslim thing may not resonate well, not only locally, but globally. So the president will be searching for answers to this kind of acute question. Do I go northwest? If I go, where do I find the Christian in the northwest that will carry this burden? Maybe the current army chief of staff, who was just the other day. Minister of Defense was just army chief of staff or defense, chief of defense staff now. Maybe it could be somebody there. I don't know who else. If I do northeast, is it the Dogora who is virtually campaigning now in the open, or somebody else there? If I go north central, what happens to the northeast and northwest axis, the so-called Kanuri and Fulani corridor? So it's a puzzle for them to solve, not for me to solve for them. I do know that the world is watching, the globe is watching, and the opposition parties are watching to pounce on whatever decision APC makes. So the VP is mindful of all these scenarios, churning all over the place. He needed to put his feet down, preserve his position, preserve the sanctity of this mandate, and then assure the president, men and women, that is very loyal to him.
Brilliant. Dr. Akeem Baba Ahmed, incidentally, former special advisor to the president, although in the office of the VP, has been in the media rounds, channels, Arise, and so on, stating quite unequivocally that the ADC, when they do have their primaries, presidential primaries, if the former vice president Atiku Abubakar clinches the ticket, the party is going to, implode, disintegrate, as it were, because the obedient movement, would not support a Peter Obi, number one, not clinching the ticket, nor even considering acceptance of VP running mate to. Now, the question is, why would Hakeem Baba Ahmed be going around doing this? Is he doing a hatchet job? Does he know what we don't know?
Have you called him asked? Do you have sex? Do you have sex to him? He's my friend. If you want to have sex to him, I can. I wouldn't know because I've not spoken. I just came back from the holidays.
Sir, Prof, you know why this is important? Some are actually alleging that it's a deliberate misinformation, ploy to sow seeds of discord, to plant discord in the minds of, some elements, especially the young turks, as it were.
ADC is yet to hold a primary election for the presidency because INEC has not unfolded its timetable. That will happen for me between late June, July, early August. Most likely, they said they changed the pattern from last time around. When that happens, as always, they tell me in the Southwest, Ayo Adebanjo will always tell me, I say, Baba, Don't cross a bridge until you get there. You cross that bridge when you get there. And again, be very, very strict in matters of principle, but very flexible in matters of tactics and strategy. I've learned that. Principle is inviolate. And then strategy and tactics, very many, we always meander around those elements. Not to get where you're getting to. Until ADC does the needful, they can begin now to say, this has happened and this is going to be consequences of this action. But before then, what one can say is this. PDP, under the leadership of Dr. Mohammed, chairman of the Governors Forum, took a decision to zone the presidency to the south. Mindful of the lesson of 2023, when the G5 governors led by Yeson Wike, current minister of FCT, revolted and said, we're going to work for a certain president and deliver him. Because Buhari was in office for 8 years. Erufai, former governor, Nasir Erufai, former governor of Kaduna State, who maybe contributed more than most, to getting the current president into the shape he was in, to get to that seat. Said it, I was supporting the president, Buhari, to have a northerner succeed, but it's morally unforgivable. The moral contours are very important. The imperatives of ethics and imperative that undergird it is very important in our political direction. To really the appetite of the political elite is vital. Constrain that appetite to say, we have a country that is complex, full of fault lines, diverse in nature. You must move this thing here and there, whether it is constitutionalized or not. So 8 years of Buhari presidency had to produce 8 years of a certain presidency. That's why Jonathan, in a sense, lost election 2015 because of this urging from the north. The PDP governors walked out on him there, Atiku walked out, Saraki walked out, and so on. So if you now have a PDP again, very indeliberate in terms of the choice of the zone of the presidency, another problem will loom. That's why President Mohammed, the governor of Bauchi State, chairman of the forum, said, let's take it to the south. They took it to the south. They didn't solve their problem outright, but they said, let's take it down there. So for ADC hesitating to pronounce unequivocally that the presidency is zoned to the south is a problem. It doesn't need a Hakim Baba to tell the world that if you have a Bola Tinubu as the president from the south, you needed somebody from the south for another 4 years to terminate in 2031. If you don't do it and you have a northern guy to be the candidate of ADC in 2027, bingo, you are losing the entire south. It doesn't need, I said it on television many times. There's no way a northerner can win 10% of the vote in any of the 17 states in the south today. Whoever you are, whoever you manufacture as a running mate, that's why P2B knows it. He can't be a running mate to anybody because his support structure base will crater completely. So you need a southern guy in order to do what? Diminish the import of the southern solidarity. Let the north now play the big brothers role, settle this battle between two southern brothers or so. If you don't do it, I don't need the Hakim Baba Ahmed to tell me on television that the ABC is going to suffer irreparable damage, particularly in the south. And again, you don't even have a holistic, monolithic north to say, as a candidate from the north, I have the 19 states with me. No, that's not true. You don't have water with you. You don't have Kogi with you. You don't have FCT with you. You don't have Benue with you. You don't have Plateau with you. You don't have portions of Taraba with you. You don't have portions of Kaduna. There are many states in the north. You can't even say, I can close my eyes and go to bed and I'll win. So a guy who are taking 17 in the south grabs FCT, good number, that's 20. Grab Wara, grabs Kogi, that's 22. Grab Benue, grab Plateau. He just missed 1 or 2. And there's more scatterings of vote across the entire, Kaduna, the Fulani corridor and Kanuri corridor. Bingo, he's won. So he is saying something that is empirically verifiable, logically sequenced, and rational.
What would you say, just in 1 or 2 minutes, what would you say, sir, to those who argue that this north-south arrangement is actually an understanding? It is not constitutional. There's no legal foundation to it.
Which is true.
That is one. And secondly, this argument of fixation on north-south arrangement shuts out the door against merit.
It doesn't do that.
So why don't we just say, hold on, sir, why don't we just say, everybody who's interested, go on, and contest.
You can't do that.
Let the best money match.
We haven't gotten to that level in our development, evolution as a country. The first one is that I said it earlier, it is not constitutionalized. Why didn't Obasanjo pick somebody from Owo as his running mate? Somebody from Enugu. Why did he go to Adamawa to pick Atiku? Really was actually being vetted. Maybe Banga Tuko, maybe Shiroma. And say, for the presidency, here is Falaye from the southwest, yes. Shinkafi from Zamfara, if I'm not mistaken, Obasanjo from Ogun State. This other one from Adamawa, Obasanjo simply said, you are right. Olawale, you are right. My running mate will be from Osun State. What's wrong with that? You didn't think anything was wrong with it. Because as you say, it's not constitutionalized. Common sense is beyond constitution. Sense of forbearance. It can't be made a constitution blinded like a fetish. Constitution is a guide. When they say a country is made up of 4 lines, as I said, cultural, ethnic, linguistic, faith, 4 lines. The country is diverse and heterogeneous in nature, and you're picking somebody from your zone, from your base, from a demographic, because there's no constitutional stricture not to do so. You don't try that. The second one, I said it on television, many platforms. My village of Mbo, in our local government area of Enugu State, we have not less than 25 to 30 practicing professors. Small village. Virtually every field of human endeavor, every sphere and domain of human existence. We have over 100 PhDs. We have engineers and doctors. We can form 3 federal cabinets in my village. If you like, hold another conversation on this, and I'll give you the names and qualifications from my village alone. I'm not saying from my local government. So this theory, this myth, this fable, that zoning constraints the issue of a capacity and experience, is not true. Every village in the country is brimful with talent, men and women, deeply and proudly endowed to run this country, run these apparatuses, run these bureaucracies. So there's no contradiction in that.